This is a Dragon Blazer production. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Unsolved Comedies. How are y'all doing? Hope you're doing good. Well, here we are, yet again, with me, your host, Kizea, and my co-host,
Stefan.
And we've got an extra special guest, guys. Good guest.
Yeah, the best, actually.
Best, actually.
It is I, Craig Atkins of the Pro Wrestling Apologists podcast, and when Kazea came to me about a murder podcast, I was like, in the world of professional wrestling, I know a lot about murder and mystery. Like in 1993, the murder mystery of professional wrestler Dino Bravo, who was found dead, shot 17 times, and nobody has figured out who killed him yet.
Wait, that's true?
It's true.
Holy crap.
Steven.
Well, I've been seeing him on the other podcast I did, the Raging Blaze show.
Yeah.
You will not. You will find that somewhere around the year 1993, you will see a lot less of him, as he was murdered by being shot 17 times.
That's so fucked up because now you've been making fun of a dead guy.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
A long time.
Well, if you make fun of any professional wrestlers, at 50-50 chance you're making fun of a dead guy. Those guys don't last very long.
I mean,
those guys don't last.
I just didn't know he was a dead guy that's been shot 17 times to die.
That's fair.
Yeah.
One more thing. We do have another person here. I don't know if he's going to speak. He might. Don't know. He's over there.
Talking about Gizmo, the cat?
No, I was talking about my boyfriend.
He speaks a lot.
I was talking.
He's
over there.
Davey.
He might chime in. He might not. Don't know yet. We'll see. Let's get started and talk about the court case surrounding 8-year-old boys' murder. 3 of them, to be specific.
You really know how to
insert sad trombone sound here.
Wah, wah, wah.
Please help me, guys. I'm stuck with them all the time. So there's 2 trials that happen. And the reason is basically because I actually did some research and found out exactly what Jesse Miss Kelly's IQ was at the time of all of this happening. And his IQ was 72. So when I said he potentially was special needs, I wasn't far off. Because he was like borderline, like he was right on the level of like mental retardation. I'm not using that as a slur. That's literally like, he was on the borderline of that.
He was very uneducated.
Horribly so. Also, we apologize if you hear some kind of like frying sound in the background. My boyfriend's cooking dinner, so you might hear some noise.
Of all people to apologize, it'd be me because I'm the one zooming in that doesn't get to enjoy any of this delicious food.
This guy asked me if my boyfriend puts pickle juice in his fried chicken, and I was disgusted.
And then everybody in the South.
You think you're disgusted? I'm more disgusted that there's no pickle juice in that chicken.
I don't like pickles. Like oddly, like I like to eat pickles by themselves, but I don't like them on my sandwiches. You know what I'm saying?
If you had fried chicken with pickle juice in it, I think it doesn't have some overwhelming pickle. Okay, this is
off topic. Off topic.
Welcome to the Southern Fried Chicken podcast. Fried chicken.
I'm your host, Kentucky Fried Craig.
Kentucky Fried Craig. Can I call you that from now on for the rest of forever?
The Colonel Craig Atkins.
Okay, I swear to God, we're done.
Okay.
This is as bad as the KK Cave mentioned from last episode.
This is an episode about the mystery of who put the pickle juice in the chicken.
Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cover Jesse Miss Kelly's confession, because this guy, who basically, from what I've read, had the mental capacity of a 6 or 7-year-old.
Yeah, he was very much like what's his name from Making a Murderer, that just wanted to know when he could get out to watch WrestleMania. Exactly,
literally, like in this case, like I'm going to play a clip in a little bit where this guy literally talks about how Jesse was coerced in his confession. And it's his name is Dr. Oshie, and we'll get more into him in a little bit, but I'm going to play that clip and you guys will have a little more information. Let's talk about the confession first. So Jesse Miss Kelly is taken into custody on June 3rd. He's picked up at this chick's house. This chick that also made up a complete story about how Damien and Jesse and Jason had taken her to some witch meeting. I don't know. She was this was like at the tail end of the Satanic Panic. Exactly.
So, and it's a huge part of why this case got the media attention that it got, and why they were convicted, and why the whole country had hated them so much. And
yes. But anyway, so this lady, the police told her, "Hey, if you can make up a story and bring it to us as an informant, we'll give you the reward money that's supposed to go to somebody with information." And so she made up this story. They told her to talk to Damien and get information. She didn't get any information, but she wanted that reward money. She was a single mother in West Memphis, poor, and she needed the reward money. So she made up this crazy story and gave it to the police and got the reward money. But they actually, like the day before Jesse Miss Kelly was interviewed, they picked him up from this chick's house. And just the day before, she had said, "Oh, I don't feel safe around him. I don't want my son around him." But he stayed at her house that night. Yeah. Don't really know. Weird as shit, but here we are. So on June 3rd, Jesse Miss Kelly is taken into custody, not arrested, taken into custody for questioning. And from 9 a.m. to 2:45-ish p.m., he was questioned repeatedly for hours without it being recorded. Yeah. What happened from 9 a.m. to 2:45? Nobody knows, because they didn't record anything. And I don't know, like, if you know common practices for
probably a whole lot of feeding him the information because they had already made the decision that this was their guy, whether they knew whether any evidence fit him or not.
Oh yeah, they knew he had a low IQ.
So it's probably them legitimately convincing him that he did it.
Oh yeah, if they literally knew, like, that they kept telling him over and over, "If you just tell us the truth, if you just tell us what we want to hear, we'll let you go home. We'll let you go home. We just need you to tell us what we want to hear. We need you to tell us the truth, and then we'll let you go home." And they said that to him over and over and over again. And this kid has the mental capacity of a 6-year-old. He's going to do whatever they want because he just wants to go home. He wants to go home. He wants to see his dad. He wants to see his girlfriend. He just wants to go home, So he's going to do whatever they tell him. So this is a very coerced, very led confession. Even in the recorded parts, it's extremely led. And I'm not going to play any of it because it's awful. Like, I feel so bad listening to this kid confess. And, like, we'll talk about some parts later on that were literally coerced, where he would say one thing and they would say, do you mean this? Or point for him.
Yeah.
So, very coerced, very bad.
I do think the police did genuinely think that he was involved, but they were not going to use the right tactics to get him to confess it. They were going to make sure that confession... Lazy police work.
Yes. So, at 9 a.m., Jesse Miskelly arrives at the West Memphis Police Department. And just so we all understand each other, I'm using pretty much the same sources that I used last time. This is Stephanie Harlow's timeline because I couldn't find a timeline. So I am borrowing this information from her. But she breaks down everything into pieces. So at 9 a.m., Jesse gets to the police station, right? Cool, fine. Between 9 a.m. and 10:45, we don't know anything that happens. Nothing. At 10 a.m., the pre-polygraph interview happens, and that's where they're like, they ask you the same questions that they're going to ask you in the polygraph and the same question that they're going to ask you after the polygraph. And then at 11:15, they have to leave the police station, and Jesse goes with them, and they have to go find his dad because Jesse's still a minor at this time. I think he was 17. So they had to go find his dad so that his dad could give permission for his son to be questioned and polygraphed. Jesse's father gives permission, and at 1:30, there's a 1 hour long polygraph. And we never see the polygraph. And just to be completely clear, guys, polygraphs are not admissible in court because there's so many things that can throw them off. So just because he failed a polygraph or the police said that he failed a polygraph does not mean he's guilty. They're not admissible in court.
They're a mere suggestion.
Literally a suggestion. So at 10:40 or 12:40, the post-polygraph interview happens, and they're like, listen, we know you're lying. The polygraph said you were lying. The polygraph said that everything that you just told them in the room was deceptive. And Jesse's like, I don't understand. I told them the truth. And they're like, this is science, so we know that you're lying. You don't have to tell us that you're lying. We already know that you're lying. So they
and Jesse's like, what science?
Jesus, Craig. But so they kind of pester him and they treat him pretty poorly. And then at 2:20, Jesse admits that he's present during the murders. And this is one of the problems. We don't know what was said. This part wasn't recorded. So we don't know if they, like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Chris Watts case, but the Chris Watts case is a case where a man named Chris Watts killed his pregnant wife and his 2 daughters. Horrible case, awful case. But in that case, one of the interviewers, the polygraph tester, comes in and she's like, well, did Shanann do something? Did Shanann do something and then you felt like you had to kill Shanann because Shanann had done this? And it's thought by a lot of people that they maybe made this suggestion. Well, you were lying, so we know you were there, but did you maybe not take part in anything? Were you maybe just there when the murders happened?
Yeah, and I think in the Chris Watts case, they were feeding into his ego.
Exactly.
And they were trying to see if they knew the truth, and they were trying to see if he would, if his ego would adapt to a different story,
right?
To a confession where he turned into Shanann was abusing the kids, and he did it because he had to rescue his kids and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Like,
this is a very separate situation from that.
This is a completely different
less ego and more...
I just brought that up to show that this is something that's commonly used.
A police tactic.
It's a police tactic. But you
it's a real tactic.
Understand that there is a massive difference between talking to a man that's incredibly smart and in his 30s and using this tactic and talking to what is essentially a 6-year-old.
works perfectly well with an egotistical piece of shit, but it doesn't work so well with a poor dumb kid.
Okay.
in the nicest way possible.
I take it the police are aware that he's not exactly the brightest.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They are
100%.
completely aware. Like, you listen to this kid talk, like,
we
might
listen to him
pause
talk,
in a
you'd
little
be
bit
fully
so
aware.
that I can play you a clip of him talking, but you listen to this kid talking. You can tell just from hearing him speak. He's not very bright. He's not bright at all. Like, he's literally... He reminds me of, like...
He'd be easy to convince that he murdered someone and didn't realize that he murdered someone.
Exactly. Like, that's where we're talking about. So, finally, at 2:44, 2:45-ish to 3:18, we have the first recorded interview. And that first recorded interview is where they do a lot of suggesting to him. And they're like, what happened here? Did this happen? When did you go do this? There's a lot of leading in this first interview. And then the second recorded interview happens about 30 minutes later, and there's just as much leading and just as much coercion and just as much suggestion. And they actually give out information that they shouldn't give out. And then after that in the evening, at about 10:30, Jason Baldwin and Damian Eccles are both arrested as a result of Jesse's confession. Now, I do want to talk about one other tactic before we move on. The other tactic I want to talk about is something that I call the circle tactic. I don't know the technical name for it, but I call it the circle tactic. And what it is if, let's say that you're on trial and I'm interviewing you, and I draw a circle on my paper and I put 3 X's in the circle in this case, and then like 70
and that's where Jamie sees it and says, well, that's clearly a square.
Well, so let me draw the picture. Do I have a pen out here? Do you have a pen? Hang on, I'm getting a pen because I feel like it would be easier to show this tactic.
I could zoom you a pen, I would, but
if I could zoom you a pen. Thank you, honey.
Not very helpful.
So this tactic essentially looks like this. Circle with 3 X's in it, and then a bunch of other X's outside the circle. And they tell Jesse, who has the mind of a 6-year-old, right, that the people inside the circle are the problem. The people inside the circle are the bad guys, right? So do you want to be inside the circle with the bad guys that are going to go to jail and get life in prison and get the death penalty? Or do you want to be outside the circle with the 50 other X's that are police? That's basically what the tactic is that they used against somebody with the mental capacity of a 6-year-old.
Yeah, it's the snitch on your friends.
I wouldn't be in the circle.
Snitch on these guys, and
well, of course,
and you'll get your freedom.
Exactly, and like you have to think, and this is all done by Gary Gitchell. The first recorded interview is done by Gary Gitchell. We talked about him in the first episode. He's
sexiest name.
But he does this circle tactic, and he's like, do you want to be in the circle with the bad guys, or do you want to be outside the circle? And of course, Jesse's got like the mind of a 6-year-old, and he's like, I don't want to get in trouble. I want to be outside the circle with the good guys, right? And Gary Gitchell's like, then you need to tell us the truth and tell us exactly what happened. And that's when Jesse starts responding to the tactics that they're trying to use. And he starts doing what they want him to do and saying...
Probably with information that had been spoon-fed to him during that time that is unaccounted for.
So when we actually talk about the trial... we talk about a guy named Warren D. Holmes, and he worked on the JFK and Martin Luther King murders, both of them. So very high profile dude, right?
Yeah.
Definitely has a background in, forensic, whatever the fuck. And he said that he believes somebody like Jesse.
That's what the actual study is called, forensic, whatever the
fuck. Exhibit forensic, whatever the fuck.
But he says that somebody like Jesse would have done anything to go home at that time. He really didn't want to
harken back to Brendan Dassey. I remembered his name now. Just wanting to get out of there to watch WrestleMania.
Yeah, literally. Let me play a clip real quick. This is that thing by Dr. Oshie that I was talking about. I had
Oshie.
Dr. Oshie. I'm trying to find it because I did have it written down somewhere. There it is. Okay. So let me see if I can pull this up real quick. It's in my notes. And basically he's talking about Jesse being misled, or Jesse being led to a severe degree in this confession. I have to put it up.
Steven, sing when there's silence.
Yeah, I requested.
So
there's no dead space.
Steven, please sing.
Okay, so because my tactic has been to basically, I can't go to the timestamps, so I've basically just been commenting the timestamps that I need so that I can pull them up with ease quickly. So
this little light of mine. Oh, you ready now?
Yes.
It is directly suggested to Jesse that the correct answer is this happened at night. Immediately upon that being suggested, Jesse responds by accepting, and now he starts to use the word at night, where he had never used it before. That is an influence tactic. It is a way of getting someone to accept something out of pressure and out of suggestion.
Okay. That was Dr. Oshie talking about it. That was a clip that I actually had to use from Stephanie's video because I tried to find it independently, and it's from the middle of the West Memphis Three Paradise Lost documentary. It's difficult to find because the Paradise Lost documentary is over an hour long. If you guys have not seen it, I would highly recommend watching it if you're into this case. So I did play that directly from her video just because it was easier to find than going through and skimming the whole Paradise Lost online that you can't even find. So we hear that said by Dr. Oshie, so we obviously know what Dr. Oshie thinks. He thinks that Jesse was completely led, and that was at Jesse's trial, and nobody paid attention to it. The jury, nobody. They didn't care that somebody had said that he had been led and coerced. They didn't care. They just wanted to convict him.
Well, 3 sweet baby angel 8-year-olds died, so,
It was... And once again, the end of the Satanic Panic, they had been fed this
information,
Satanist horseshit. And it's a public is easy to sway when there's a public Satanic Panic.
Literally. In this small little Bible Belt town, they knew what they were doing. So let's talk about just a few things that Jesse got wrong, because Jesse got a lot of things wrong in his confession, but we're just going to talk about a couple of them. So when Jesse is asked what the boys are tied up with, he says that they were tied up with rope, which is not true. The boys were tied up with shoelaces.
Oh.
They were tied up with licorice, right?
Oh.
He gets Sorry.
He gets the boys' names and pictures wrong. So at the start of all of this, they put the pictures in front of him, and they're like, "You need to name the boys and point at their picture when you're talking about what happened to them." And he was pointing at Stevie, but talking about Chris Byers, and pointing at Michael Moore, but talking about Stevie. He wasn't getting the names right. And at some point, they decided that they didn't want him to keep talking if he was going to sound like he didn't know what he was talking about.
Oh, why?
Convenient.
Because that might make him look innocent, which he is. But so they didn't want him to keep talking if it sounded like it was wrong, right? We want to convict this guy. So they told him, don't worry about the names, just point to the picture. Point to the picture and tell us what happened.
We really want to throw you in jail, young man.
Yeah.
He also gets.
We really don't want to have to do any more police work. We just want this sealed and shut.
Jesse also gets the timeline wrong. You heard Dr. Oshie talk about it. He talks about how Jesse kept saying, in the morning, the boys skipped school. We went at this time. We went early in the day. And at some point, one of the officers in the room when he was interviewed is like, you told me earlier that you did this at night. So tell me more about how you did this at night. And then all of a sudden, Jesse was saying at night. That's what Dr. Oshie was talking about when he said, you told me earlier that this happened at night. Jesse had never said in the recorded interview that anything happened at night. But they suggested that to him. Low IQ, he's going to start responding that way. He's easy to sway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he had been convinced himself that he had actually done it.
Well,
shit, I killed these kids, damn it.
Well, he says that there's like an interview where he's like, I didn't even know that my lawyer was working for me. I thought he was just another cop, and I was just telling my lawyer what they told me to tell the police. So
because the lawyer is probably frustrated and knows the deal, knows that he's been coerced, but he can't get. But
at some point,
so ingrained in the lie.
Well, his father tells him, "Son, you need to tell the truth. This guy is here to help you. You're innocent. I know you're innocent. I know you're not capable of doing this.
This poor kid doesn't even know what the truth is anymore."
And that's when he's like, I didn't do this. I have no idea why they're trying to pin this on me, but they told me that if I tell this story over and over and over again, I can go home. And so he did what he thought he would get him home because he's a kid.
So maybe I missed something somewhere, but what did the police? Why did the police believe it was him?
Because so Jerry Driver had this satanic occult task force, and him and his task force had come up with this list of 8 names of people that might be involved in Satanism and the occult. Jesse, Jason, and Damien's names were all on it, and they were the only 3 that knew each other. And they knew that Jesse was
dumb.
Yeah. Low IQ. So they decided that they would focus on Jesse, and they really wanted Jason and Damien. They didn't want Jesse. They just knew that they could get Jesse to confess to whatever they said.
And Stephen, if you know anything about what the Satanic Panic was, it was a largely manufactured, like there was, I don't think any of the cases that were considered part of the Satanic Panic were actual real things that happened.
Well, and it was where
people. Go ahead. Sorry.
You have to remember that, like, the Satanic Panic took place probably in the late 80s, mid to late 80s.
This was at the tail end.
And what sparked the Satanic Panic was everything that we talked about in the first episode. We talked about the Manson murders happening in the late 60s.
Yep.
We talked about Anton LaVey writing the Satanic Bible. We talked about Aleister Crowley.
It all largely came from Jerry Falwell. And
like, all of these things happened, so then people became terrified of the occult and the Satanic Panic, and people fed off of that.
It was the entire nation, but even more so the Bible Belt. They just thought, Satanism meant you're drinking baby's blood and you're
literally,
you're killing little boys. So it was all wrapped up into that.
They literally just used Jesse. There's no reason that they have to think that Jesse did anything. There's nothing tying Jesse to the crime scene.
There's no evidence that he was there.
Nope.
Other than he was the creepy kid in town that everybody thought was going to be a murderer someday because he...
No, that's Damien.
Because he dabbled in... Oh, yeah, okay, you're right.
Jesse was friends with Jason.
An associate.
And he knew Damien through Jason. So they knew that they had a link to the guy that they really wanted, which was Damien. And they knew that Jesse was stupid. And they were like, let's take him in for questioning and we can get him to say whatever the fuck we want him to say.
They probably they were legitimately after Damien because they probably did think he was involved. So they were going to go after his dumbest associate, his dumbest, not even a direct associate.
When you want to go after Two-Face.
Literally. It was awful.
Sure.
At some point, and you remember when I said that there's literally a point where he is coerced and you can hear it. I'm not going to go through and find the clip because, like I said, I don't want to put this kid being manipulated out there. If you want it, it's not difficult to find. There's a point when Jesse is asked where the boys were cut. And he says, this one was cut here, this one was cut here, and this one was cut on his bottom. When I say bottom, what do you think of?
Well, the ass cheek.
But. Now, the police officer then says, do you mean here? Do you know what a penis is? Was he cut on his penis? Is that where he was cut? Is that what you mean when you say bottom, is that he was cut on his penis? And then Jesse immediately says,
wait.
Yes, that's where he was cut.
Were they cut on their penis?
We talked about Chris Byers being castrated.
One of them was castrated, but I thought you said it was a snapping turtle that
It was, but these guys are convinced that he was castrated.
It was, but because of
no, they didn't.
Yet?
No, this is
okay.
Okay, yeah, it's fine.
Yep.
But if I said if somebody with the mental capacity of a 6-year-old said, he was cut on his bottom, I'm not going to be like, do you know what a penis is? Is that what you really mean? Was he cut here? He was cut on his penis, wasn't he? And was he cut in his groin area?
Oh, yeah.
Like he was led. Like that is one of the key points to seeing that Jesse was very led and very.
Sounds like really shitty police work.
Awful police work.
I believe we talked about this in another episode.
We did.
Fuck the police.
There's also one major thing that Jesse gets wrong for all of you anti-West Memphis Threeers out there. Do you guys think that these kids are guilty? Jesse claimed that the 3 boys were raped. And there is no evidence. The boys were not raped. Even when they did their autopsy and the original autopsy, which was complete bullshit, there was no evidence that the boys were raped. And Jesse said that the boys were raped, and
as you mentioned,
I think that the boys were killed after they got naked themselves. Because the boys probably got naked to go swimming in the water. 8-year-old boys that want to go swimming in a creek might take their clothes off and their underwear just might come off with them.
And as you had mentioned, the thing that people looked at as being the most sexual part of this murder was the
snapping turtle.
Was the snapping turtle, which they had not been associated with a snapping turtle yet. It had been associated with a sex crime of passion.
Exactly.
But it wasn't. It was a snapping turtle.
Right. So after all of this happens, not a very convincing case, if you ask me. Not a convincing case at all. But no. Jesse is found guilty on February 4th.
So they got out quickly, right?
Huh?
They got out quickly, right?
The jury? Yeah.
No, the West Memphis Three. They got out quickly because it was not a convincing case.
No. No. They spent 18 years in prison.
Oh. Well.
Steven, God damn it. On February 4th, 1994, Jesse is found guilty. He gets 1 count of first degree, 2 counts of second degree, and that gets him life plus 40 years in prison.
So, why I kill that kid that I don't remember killing again?
So now we're going to talk about Damien and Jason's trial. And this is where shit starts to get fucked.
Wacky.
Crazy. So let's talk about the first thing that we have is an expert witness. Expert. And I'm going to play you a clip of this expert witness talking about the occult. And let me tell you, not fucking convincing. Not by a long goddamn shot is it convincing.
Not horribly expert.
Bad expert work. Bad.
Hello? Is it me you're looking for?
Okay.
Okay, hurry up.
I'm getting there. I have to.
Looking for you, Steven.
Sorry, hate to tell you, but he's right. Are you looking for Stephen Craig?
He's easy to find.
I wasn't hiding.
He's easy to find.
If I step outside my house and look over in that direction, I might be able to see him over the horizon.
All right, I have this pulled up. I'm just going to click on that real quick to bring it back to the original point.
Called overtones or
Oh, sorry.
Literally thought that was Davey for a second there.
Davey's not an occult expert.
No, he's not.
Are you an occult expert?
Sounds like he's a chicken expert, except he doesn't use pickle juice.
I have read the Necronomicon.
No?
Okay, this is at the beginning of Paradise Lost.
in looking at young people involved in the occult, do you see any particular type of dress? I have personally observed people wearing black fingernails, having their hair painted black, wearing black T-shirts.
Awful.
Sometimes they will tattoo themselves.
Good Lord Almighty, no.
Jesus.
Tattoos.
Make it stop. Make it stop. Black shirts, tattoos. That
This
sounds
guy's
like
name.
all of my friends are in Christian rock bands. They all wear.
Hail Satan, indeed.
All my friends are in Christian rock bands. All wear black clothing and have tattoos.
So, if you don't notice that, if you don't recognize that bit of speech, it's actually used in a song, the intro to a song by Black Veil Brides called Knives and Pens, specifically trying to bring it, like, not bring attention to the case, but they were trying to make a point by using that.
Yeah.
Because their style was super black hair, black nail polish, black T-shirts. They drew, like, stitches on their face,
emo?
white face paint. Screamo, kind of. At the time, they were Screamo, very Screamo. But now they're more of a metal type deal. But it was.
I believe they murdered someone, didn't they?
No, they.
So they were Satanists that murdered people, clearly. From the description that I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Satanists. This guy's name is Dale Griffiths, and let me tell you, he's basically a mail order PhD, okay? Because he had a PhD in the occult, and that's what made him an expert. Mail order PhD.
That's what. Oh, okay. We're talking about a different PhD. Okay.
We're talking about a different PhD, Craig. Sorry to disappoint. I know you like pretty hot dicks, but that's not what this is.
Move along.
And when he is asked, what classes did you take to get your master's in the occult?
Satan 101.
Satanomic. That's a good one.
I'll listen to a Black Sabbath album backwards.
Virgin Sacrifice. Version 2.
God damn, not Black Sabbath. God, no, not Black Sabbath.
Oh, they're Satanists.
Not Metallica.
And Ozzy Osbourne, if you think of him, you think of the worst Satanist.
Alice Cooper.
I love that these guys focused, like the cops focused on a couple of teenagers that listen to Metallica.
Yeah.
They listened to Metallica. They wore black Metallica band T-shirts. That made them Satanists. Like, okay, sure.
Only they could flash forward 30 years to see Metallica now. They're all like clean shaven dads.
Literally. That happens to everybody though. Like that literally happened to, I don't know if you guys know like Good Charlotte, but they like when they came out, they were like teenagers or like really young adults and they all had mohawks and they all had like they had eyeliner on and they all had like funny looking clothes and like now they have like beards and like they're buff and like they have dad bods and you're like, wow.
People grow up. Son of a bitch.
It's weird.
So when he's asked,
you look at me
20
20 years ago. I had spiky blue hair, baggy UFO pants. No, I'm just dad.
You wore Janko jeans? Is that what that is? No.
I did actually. They're like UFOs.
Oh, damn. He wore Janko jeans, everybody. He's a murderer. He's a child murderer.
Hail Satan!
I had a wallet chain. I never got a tattoo because my mommy wouldn't let me.
My mommy wouldn't let me.
Oh, Mom, I really want to support Satan.
So when David Griffiths, or Dale Griffiths, is asked, what classes did you take? You know, you're an expert in the occult. What classes did you take to get your master's degree? You have a PhD. It goes associates, bachelor's, master's, PhD. So what'd you do to get your master's? And he's like, well, I didn't take any classes. I didn't take any. Okay, that's fine. I understand. Maybe you got your master's in something else. Your PhD is in the occult and Satanism. So what classes did you take to get your PhD? And he's like, oh, I didn't take any.
What school do you go to for that?
A mail order school, Craig. A mail order PhD school. I think it's literally called Columbia Pacific. I don't even know if it still exists, and I don't know if it's still a mail order school. Now it might be a legitimate university, but it was like Columbia Pacific or something like that. That was like the school that this guy got his mail order PhD from.
I got my PhD by playing Dungeons and Dragons version 3.
Version 3. So then we have a guy whose name...
Cat the fuck up.
I would love... Can we just kick Gizmo? Let's let him outside for a little bit.
No.
The last time we let Gizmo outside, he was gone for a week. Okay. Also, that was a joke about kicking cats. I have 2 beautiful fur cat babies, and I would never kick them. It was a joke,
I have 2 beautiful cats, and I love all cats, but I really still want to kick Stevens right now.
So
I don't even know if Gizmo's the one meowing.
I mean, the only other option is Pumpkin, and Pumpkin doesn't talk like that.
Pumpkin's over.
Oh, it is Pumpkin?
Yeah, he's over.
Shut up, Pumpkin. I love you. Mommy loves you, but shut up. Mommy loves you, but shut up. Thank you. So Michael Carson is this random dude who's in jail for drug use, of all things, drug use. And he was in jail with Jason for a short time. And he claims that Jason confessed to him. He told him everything. And he told him how the kids were raped. He told him how the kids were, like, cut up. He told him how the kids
Do you
were
know if this
tied up.
alleged confession is similar to the one that he told in court? Or?
It's been retracted. In fact, the guy's counselor was like, I discussed the details of the case with him because he was just curious what was going on with the case. So I told him a little bit about the case. That's how he knew that the boys were allegedly cut. And that's how he knew that the boys were tied up. And that's how he knew this. And that's how he knew that. Because his counselor came out to the court and was like, listen, buddy, this is not real. He has been planning this for a while. He wants to get out of jail early.
So you think it was more him just making up off the top of his head rather than him questioning him himself to get see what he would say.
I think that he talked to his counselor about the details of the case because that's what the counselor says is that they talked about the details of the case, right? Cool.
Okay.
So they talk about the details of the case and then Michael uses all of those details that he talked with his counselor about to claim that Jason confessed to him. And he has also come out and he's like, it was all made up and I know that Jason will never forgive me, but I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I just wanted to get out of jail because I wanted drugs. So, yeah. Bad guy. So Damien's journal is another
desperate guy.
Desperate guy.
Drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad. So Damien's journal is another piece of evidence that is complete bullshit that's brought in to the court case. And the 2 things that they have him read from his journal is a William Shakespeare quote from A Midsummer Night's Dream, something about life being, I don't remember. It was like, life is a shadow, it's a tale told by an idiot, something like that. It's from A Midsummer Night's Dream. There's a clip of
box
him.
of chocolates?
No. I could find that.
Oh, another idiot.
That one, so we would have to wait for me to find it. If you want to
start singing.
Watch.
I was gonna sing Metallica, but they'll probably get us some copyright. Shit.
Do you want me to find the clip? I'll find the clip.
I don't think they can get you on a copyright of something horribly rendered.
Horribly rendered. I mean, it would be horribly rendered. It's coming from Steven.
Every band,
let's be
it would
honest.
be Metallica. It would be Lars that comes after us.
Yeah.
God, dang it.
You're right. I guess it would be the one.
Yeah, it'd be the one band. It's like, I don't
that
care.
actually would care. Like, oh.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess.
I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Diddly-dee. There they are, standing in the rain.
It's in a row. Why were you adding rain into it?
I don't know. I only know this song from freaking Lion King.
Oh, jeez. Do you not know, like, any other songs from Lion King?
Well,
why that song?
Why that
song you don't even know?
Just popped in my head. Zazu sings it.
Zazu is, like, the worst character in the Lion King.
Zazu sounds like a random name I would think of when I am intentionally calling Kazaya by the wrong name.
He's like, hi, Kazuki, Zazu, whatever though.
Kazazu?
Kazazu.
Zazu was played by Rowan Atkinson, and he was great.
Okay, shut up. Nobody cares.
We're done. We're done with the Zazu talk. If we're really talking about good support characters, Iago was the best fucking support character. I want to hear it.
Played by Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah. And have you ever heard Gilbert Gottfried's real voice?
It's exactly like...
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. There's literally like a voice. There's a recording of a voicemail that he left somebody, and he's talking in his normal voice, and it sounds like it's odd because it's a normal voice.
Oh.
He has two different voices where he's got his low voice, and then when he talks loud is when he gets the... I always hear him in interviews on different podcasts I listen to.
Let me see. I'm just at this point. There it is. Gotcha. Perfect. There it is. This is also from Stephanie's video, just easier to find than going through an hour-long documentary.
Life is but a walking shadow. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. That's from A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. Pure black, looking clear. My work is soon done here. Try getting back from me that which used to be. That is off a Metallica tape called Injustice for All. It talks about how warped the court systems are, stuff like that.
So that's him talking about the quotes that were found in his journal that were evidence of him being a devil worshiper. Yes, William Shakespeare. Did y'all not know that William Shakespeare was a devil worshiper?
No, that's true.
Oh, yeah. Just at a time where anything remotely dark was considered... the fact that you do a murder podcast, somebody would look at that as being too dark, and you'd be a Satanist.
Well, let's be real for a second. A Midsummer Night's Dream is a comedy. It's a funny play. Yeah. So why the fuck were they looking at that and being like, "That's so dark"? Like, no, it's a
dark quote.
It's a joke, my guy.
It was just during
Allan Poe in there.
Literally. Well, we'll talk some more, but.
I remember I was a kid during this time of the Satanic Panic, and I do remember like anything that was remotely the church that I grew up in. I'd say if you played Dungeons and Dragons, you were letting demons into you, and it's all a lot of that stuff is still around in a lot of dumber people, but it was pretty huge back then. Everybody was afraid of the hiding Satanist.
We're hiding the Satanists in our basements. They're like the Jews.
Wait, are we protecting them in our basement? Or like, is this throwing them in an oven? Is that what you're going for?
No, we're protecting them in our basement. We're the good guys here. We're the good guys. Okay. That was a joke, guys. I'm sorry. Please don't leave. Please don't leave.
I love how you apologize. I'm sorry for telling a joke on this comedy podcast.
I don't want anybody to get offended. And then they'd be like, you used hate speech against me, so I'm going to leave.
I'm leading the charge to cancel Kazea.
He's going to start a petition. Cancel Kazea. Okay.
Hashtag cancel Kabuki.
Kazuki.
Yeah. Like who?
So the prosecution did try to use a list of names that Damien had written in code. They were like, it had his name on it, Jason's name, his son's name, and Aleister Crowley's name. And for some reason, the fact that he wrote Aleister Crowley's name in this coded fucking alphabet was just he was guilty. You wrote Aleister Crowley's name. You're guilty. What? I'm sorry. What?
He was just a dark kid. He was a kid, you know.
Literally, like this is the same kid. Like
you could have looked at me at that age and with the same lens and been like, oh, this kid is a potential murderer because I listened to whatever I listened to back then. Literally. Darker music. Probably the same stuff that Eccles was listening to.
Literally, Metallica, Pink Floyd, probably Black Sabbath. Like,
I've listened to all those
like,
bands.
Are you a Satan worshiper?
Okay, wait.
Obviously.
Ricky Martin.
So they try to use this list, and they're like, "You wrote Aleister Crowley's name. God, you wrote Aleister Crowley's name. You're guilty." And people are like, "Yeah, he wrote Aleister Crowley's name. He's guilty. That's what that means, I think."
Mm-hmm. Yep, obviously.
There also is rumors. I don't know how true it is, but there's rumors that Jason was offered a deal, like a shorter life sentence. I think his deal was 40 years in prison with the chance for parole in 15. And all he had to do was testify against Damien. And he said, no, my mom raised me to tell the truth, and I'm not going to lie and ruin my friend's life. He's Damien's best friend. He's like, I'm not going to lie and ruin my best friend's life. You got to have a little bit of
naive trust in the system to work the truth out.
He's like,
unfortunately, the system was working against them.
Literally. He's like, this is my best friend. I'm not going to testify against him to make sure that I can get out of jail.
And
if
really,
we're going to go to jail, we'll go to jail together type situation.
Eccles was the one they want. He was the town
wanted.
Pariah. He was the one that the town thought he was creepy.
Which, if you look at Damien now, Damien is extremely well-read. I love hearing Damien speak in, interviews and shit because he's just so intelligent. And the way that he speaks.
He was a guy that he was the kid that he was the pariah, and I think he kind of liked it. It worked against him in this situation, but he was, he didn't want to be the popular kid.
He never went to college. I think that's what shocks me the most is he's just extremely well-read. He's incredibly intelligent. We'll have to play Stevenson clips after this is all over.
He had 18 years to do nothing but read.
Exactly. He is smart as shit. This guy is crazy smart. And he was smart as shit 2 years after he went to jail when they did Paradise Lost 2. And they were interviewing him. He had spent all of that time reading and doing research, and he was smart as shit then. You would listen to him talk, and he's like I think he makes a comment once. He's like, people have this twisted trust in authority. If authority tells you that this guy's a bad guy, you're going to go with what the authority says because that's what authority says. He talks, and he's smart, and he's well-read, and he's intelligent. And it just, I love listening to him talk. I love listening to his interviews. looking at him now, he is into Wicca and he is into alchemy and he got married with a Buddhist ceremony. Like, he's not your traditional everyday spiritual person,
After
but that
he
doesn't.
got out or before?
Yeah, after he got out.
Okay.
He's not your traditional spirit. Well, technically, he got married while he was still in prison, but everything else is happening after. But he's not your typical spiritual person, but he's definitely himself. And I don't think that any of those things I just mentioned, being interested in alchemy or being interested in Wicca or talking about light magic, not dark magic. He talks about light magic, which is the exact opposite of what Aleister Crowley talked about. Aleister Crowley talked about black magic, but he talks about light magic. And even if he called himself a Satanist and had a pentagram on his head, doesn't change a single thing about his worth. Just because you're a Satanist doesn't mean that you're automatically a child murderer or that you automatically kill somebody.
Satanist
Just
makes you a weird kid.
Right. It makes you a weird kid. It makes you a Satanist.
A weird kid doesn't make you a murderer.
Like, I know plenty of people that are Wicca, and to some people, Wicca is considered Satanism because it's technically witchcraft. And all of the people that I know that practice Wicca, they're weird as shit and they're annoying as shit, but they're not murderers.
The religion of the nerd.
It's okay. The only person that I dislike that I've known to practice Wicca stole my boyfriend. So, there we are.
I'm friends with a couple Wiccans.
Did she use black magic?
No. He broke up with me because of some issues with my family. And she swooped in and got with him, and she was awful and annoying. And you could hear her voice and it just it literally would send me into seizures if I heard it today. It's awful. It's the most shrill, annoying voice I've ever heard in my life.
Went out to him, was like, "Do you like trees?
Do you like trees? Do you like trees?" Was that her pickup line? Was that the pickup line that Elena used? Do you like trees?
Trees.
Do you like trees?
I don't know what kind of pickup lines Wiccans would do. That seems like it would.
I mean, it doesn't. The look on his face is telling me that's not the pickup line that she used. I mean, the occult is fine, but I was just asking you. I was specifically asking you.
Literally works with tarot cards and quite truly believes in the flow.
Yeah, literally. I mean, and he's not a murderer. No, I mean specifically Elena.
I'm not a murderer. I promise.
Elena identified herself as a Wiccan back before you and I even broke up. I was just asking you if her pickup line was, "Do you like trees?" She was an idiot. Love that.
Oh, you're talking about Davey. I thought you were talking about some other boyfriend.
No. She stole Davey from me. Davey and I broke up, and she had been flirting with Davey the whole time that Davey and I were dating, and then we broke up, and she jumped on him. Huh?
Davey.
Yeah, months. She flirted with him for months while we were dating. It was awful.
Davey, you were banging a chick that didn't shave her armpits.
Craig asked if you were banging a chick that didn't shave her armpits. I mean, I don't think...
No.
Davey never banged her. I don't think he did. I told him if he banged her, he might catch something. So I told him to be very careful. I was like, if you ever leave me for this chick specifically, don't have sex with her, because she's had sex with 15 other guys, and we were only 15 at the time. I was 14, but Elena was a year older than me, and she had fucked 5 guys, and I was like, listen, please don't have sex with her. I don't want to see you get an STD from this bitch.
Really going off topic.
Sorry again.
It's not my podcast, but I feel like it's going off the rails.
He's like, we're going to recenter. Okay. So Jason refuses this deal. I was just bringing up that I know Wiccans, and that is what Damien's involved in, and he is not a child murderer.
I don't know if
they ain't going to steal your kids. They're just going to steal your, or they ain't going to kill your kids.
I love Wiccans. Don't get me wrong. I love Wiccans. Wiccans are cool as shit. You guys have some really awesome beliefs. I just dislike this one specific Wiccan that stole my boyfriend. All the rest of y'all are cool. I just don't like her.
They're weird.
So... On March
They're
18th.
weird and they smell like patchouli and they
All right. That's enough, Craig. Stop attacking the Wiccans. Wiccans' lives matter, damn it.
only black ones, though.
Are you done?
Black magicians.
Are you done? Are you done?
I'm done. Okay. Go ahead.
So on March 18th, 1994, Jason is sentenced to life in prison and Damien is sentenced to death. All the evidence that we talked about, such wonderful evidence, right? Put them in prison for life, and Damien spent 18 years on death row. And I imagine that can only be horrendous.
Yeah.
To spend 18 years of your life not knowing if you were the next one to go.
Yep.
Not knowing if you were the next one that was
always thought it. I mean, sometimes it's worked out, obviously, like in the case of Damien Eccles. I always thought it was weird that it takes so long to get to that point.
Well, and he says, like, there's an interview that I'm going to play a clip from. It's not, the clip that I'm going to play isn't from him. It's actually from Pam Hobbs and then also from John Mark Byers. But in the clip, he's like, I watched people go to their death every single day. I watched guys leave their cells, take their last meal, and not come back. And I didn't know if I was going to be the next one. I didn't know if I was going to make it out. You know, he even says before, he said in a different interview that he knew if he didn't take that Alfred plea, he was never going to see the outside of the prison because they would kill him.
Yep.
So
crazy.
I can't imagine what he went through with all of that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is some of the celebrities that supported them. We got some guys from Pearl Jam. We've got Johnny Depp. And do you remember how I said that Terry Hobbs sued a chick from the Dixie Chicks?
I do remember this.
Natalie Maines is her name.
You mean the chick? It's just the chicks, though. They dropped the Dixie.
Yeah. So Natalie Maines from the Dipsy.
The Dipsy Chicks.
From the Dipsy Chicks. That would have been a good name.
So the two people that I focused on were Johnny Depp and Natalie Maines from the Dixie Chicks, because Johnny Depp raised a lot of money for the West Memphis Three. And if you look at Johnny Depp, it makes a whole fuck ton of sense why. Johnny Depp was 10 times weirder than Damien Eccles and wasn't in prison for murder.
He's a weird dude.
He's weird as shit. I love Johnny Depp. Don't get me wrong. He's amazing, but he's weird as shit. So at some point, Natalie Maines is like, yo, this guy is fucked, right? Like, we should let the West Memphis Three out because there's probably more info pointing to Terry, because, like, I haven't talked about this yet, but there was a hair that was consistent with Terry Hobbs' hair, not consistent with any of the boys from the West Memphis Three, not Jason, Damien, or Jesse, but it was consistent with Terry's hair. And it was found in one of the shoelaces that was tying the boys up. And actually, a hair was found from one of Terry's friends in another one of the shoelaces that was tying up another boy. So there is literally more evidence pointing to Terry than there is the West Memphis Three. And Natalie Maines brings this up. I don't know if it was in an interview or in a concert. I'm not really sure, but she brings it up. And he's like, yo, I'm going to sue her. I'm going to sue Natalie Maines of the Dixie Chicks because that's what we do.
That sounds like a smart financial decision.
Yeah.
Well, I honestly, like, he probably thought this, like, was his big break. Like, he figured he was going to win this case. They were going to have to pay him a whole lot of money, and he could live off of murdering his stepson for the rest of his life.
Murdering stepson is a very lucrative business.
Yes, sirree. And this is during the court case for that is the first time that he's technically able to be openly questioned in court about the disappearance of his stepson. And we also know that the original case took place in 1993. Terry Hobbs was not officially questioned until 2007.
Wow.
Are you kidding me? 2007? What? Like, you guys didn't... And we'll talk about why he didn't get
They
interviewed.
really wanted to have their guys.
They really did.
The guy, specifically Eccles, more than the other two.
Literally. So the guy, we've talked about how the wounds were actually made. They were not made by a knife. They were made by animals, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the guy that actually discovered this, his name is Vincent DeMeo, and I think he discovered it between 2001 and 2007. I don't know what year specifically, but his name is Vincent DeMeo. He's a forensic pathologist, and he is the one who discovered that the wounds were actually made by animals.
Hey guys. You guys are idiots.
Yeah, guys are idiots. Let me pull up this picture. I actually have a picture for you of the wounds that a snapping turtle can make. And this is just a regular fucking snapping turtle. The snapping turtles that were in the creek that the boys were thrown in were alligator snapping turtles. So imagine what I'm about to show you, but worse.
Okay.
This is from a YouTube video where a guy gets bitten by a snapping turtle.
Why? Are you doing this to me?
That is what his wound looks like. So if you imagine something like that where there was no restriction of the, like, because they had to pour a whole bunch of alcohol on the turtle's head to get him to let go of the guy. So if you imagine there was no interference with a snapping turtle biting onto Chris Byers' it probably just took it. It just took it off. You know what I'm saying? So no, Chris Byers was not castrated. It was eaten by a snapping turtle.
Yeah.
I hate to say that. I really do. It's awful. I don't even.
It's awful.
But
the whole thing is awful.
Slightly less awful than the other.
A Satanist cutting your dick off.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I can't believe the police didn't realize is the fact that only one of their
victims was castrated, which is weird.
Another thing, can we be 100% sure that the turtle was not a Satanist itself?
Is the turtle a Satanist too? God. Okay.
Hail, turtle Satan.
Sorry. I'm wheezing a lot over here today, guys. It's because normally I just have Steven, and now there's two of them. And Steven and Craig are very similar. You guys haven't seen enough of Craig to know, but
no, we're not.
Very similar in the way
there's like a 200-pound difference.
Oh damn! Oh damn! That was rough, Craig. I'm sorry, Steven. That was rough for you. Yeah.
Are you saying sorry to him? You just compared me to him.
So David Burnett sounds really similar.
I didn't do it.
I didn't.
I have sex with that woman.
What I miss?
The last name that sounds similar to is Barnett, which is why I was nervous about saying it in the presence of my boyfriend, whose last name is Barnett.
Oh, yes.
So
what Davey do?
Burnett with the U. Burnett. David Burnett. He was the original judge that tried the case. He spent 18 years denying these boys' appeals. 18 years. He just sat, like he was supposed to run for state senator, and he put off running for state senator so he could continue to sit on this court case and deny Damian Eccles and Jason Baldwin's appeals.
Someone should take a snapping turtle to his penis.
Can I do it?
Get a satanic snapping turtle to go to town on him.
If you can find a satanic snapping turtle, I'll let you put it on.
I feel like that actually is the most common religion of
snapping turtles. So he spent 18 years turning these guys' appeals down. And when he was asked to recuse himself, he refused, and he said that this wouldn't have happened. He should have never let cameras in the courtroom, and this wouldn't have happened. So he knew that it was wrong, but whatever.
Yeah.
He's also an idiot. He said at some point, so when the prosecution
gave in to the court of public opinion.
Yes.
Above all.
So when during the original court case, the prosecution, or not the prosecution, the defense, I think one of Damien's lawyers, is trying to debunk the mail order PhD guy, right? Dale Griffiths, that's his name. He's trying to debunk this guy. And the judge says something along the lines of, I don't like this because really you could have a third grade education and be an expert on something if you have other education that makes you an expert. And I was like, you can have a third grade what? A third grade, huh? And be an expert at what? Like, I was confused. I was really lost.
Look
Okay.
at all those third grade experts down there.
So, like,
My cat's an expert.
your cat's an expert in snuggles. That's about it. She snuggles him.
It's valuable.
It's valuable. So in 2007, Warner Spitz, who was on the JonBenet Ramsey case, and Richard Souverin, who helped get Ted Bundy convicted, they are both brought out as experts by Damien's lawyers in the new evidence that they have and the new experts that they have. So these two are high-profile people. Anybody involved in the JonBenet Ramsey case and anybody involved in the Ted Bundy case. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Definitely high-profile people. These guys know what the fuck they're talking about, right? There's no DNA connecting the West Memphis Three to the
big
crime.
TV cases of the century.
Literally.
Twice.
And the knife that they claim was used wasn't even used. Let's talk about that knife for a second. I don't know if you guys have seen the picture, but
was
there's
it
a picture.
turtle face shaped?
No. So the knife, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the picture, but there's these divers holding a survival knife and their diving gear in like this lake, and they're holding this knife, right? And it's awful because the knife went into that lake a year prior to the murders even taking place.
Wow.
A whole year before. And they know that. They knew that it was in the lake because Jason's mother told them. She was like, listen, my son's innocent. He doesn't even have a knife. The only knife that he ever had, I threw out in the lake because I didn't want my son playing with knives. So the only knife he's ever owned is out in that lake, right?
Wow.
And it's been out there for a year, so there's no way he could have used it to commit these murders, right? Right.
Found that knife.
They went out into the
And
water.
then he used that knife on these children.
And then they went back
he
out
went
there. It's the
swimming
exact
for
same-
it.
And then put it back in there.
And so they go
And then a
into the
snapping
water.
turtle came out with it and be like, "Are you looking for this?"
So these divers go into the water and they find, like, they were only in the water for like 15, 20 minutes. They weren't in the water very long at all. They called the press beforehand. They were like, yo, come to this spot, my guy. We got the shit right here. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. Meet us there, right? So the press come and they come out of the water after like 15, 20 minutes of being in the water with a kniff. And they hold it up like this and the press gets that picture and they're like, yes, guys, it's the shit. We got it.
See what we got? This kills, right?
This kills, right? So, yeah, it was just a mess because, like, they had no reason to think that the knife was used. It had been in the fucking water for a year. A year.
I feel like this is another good time to bring up that fuck the police.
Fuck the police. So, there's three other suspects besides the West Memphis Three. One of them is John Mark Byers. We've already talked about him. I don't think he did it. There's no reason. He had no motive. He loved his son very much. I also found out between recording this episode and the last episode that we recorded that John Mark Byers actually passed away earlier this year in like June, I think, of 2020. And he died in a car crash. So rest in peace, buddy. So he's actually died now. Let me talk about what people think. People think that he was focused on in Paradise Lost 2, and people think that he killed his wife, but there is no evidence that he killed his wife. Yes, his wife died under suspicious circumstances, but John Mark was very cooperative. He took a polygraph. He signed off so that his wife could have an autopsy done because I think he genuinely wanted to know what happened to her. I honestly think she probably died of a broken heart because I don't know how long you can survive after you bury your baby.
How did she die?
Yeah, how did she die?
She was apparently sleeping, and John Mark got out of bed to get some water, and he was like, honey, do you want anything? And she didn't respond. So he shook her, and he was like, hey, do you want anything to drink? And she didn't respond, and instead she started vomiting. So he runs and tells the police, or he runs and tells his neighbor, he's like, look, can you please call an ambulance? I'm going to try to save my wife, but she's puking, and I don't know what's wrong, and I don't want her to die, right? His friend calls an ambulance, and he starts trying to resuscitate his wife and trying to wake her up. And he turns her, I think it said that he turned her on her side so she didn't choke on her own vomit, but I don't know for sure. But there's no evidence that he killed her.
What reason do they think that I mean,
inconclusive.
What trauma could have been done?
Her autopsy came back inconclusive. Okay. They have no idea how she died.
It was weird.
There was drugs in her system, but the drugs were not enough. The drugs in her system were said to not be enough to kill her. But we don't know. She could have OD'd earlier in the day and was just now experiencing the results of it. You know, you don't die immediately when you OD.
I think drugs adds quite a bit of a wild card to the situation.
And also, the most important part, John Mark has alibis for the night that the boys died. He was always with somebody, and in fact, he called and complained to the police, the sheriff's office the next day, and was like, we have fucking 3 8-year-old boys that are just missing. They're just gone. And you guys aren't helping us look. And that's what sparked the police to come out the next day and look into where the boys were, and that's when they found the boys deceased. Terry Hobbs is our second suspect. Let me tell you what I think about
Piece of work.
Let me tell you what I think about Terry Hobbs, guys. He's an asshole. It's awful.
You love him.
I hate Terry Hobbs with a burning... I hate him almost as much as I hate fucking Regina Meeks, if that tells you anything. Lazy ass cop. Sorry. Not sorry. Terry Hobbs' first wife says that he was incredibly physically abusive to her, and that's why they divorced, because she was tired of getting the shit beat out of her, right?
Yeah.
He also left West Memphis for a time, 2 weeks after Stevie died. I don't know about you. You're not even married. Craig, you are married. So I'll ask both of you. If you're, God forbid, something happened to one of your children that you have with your ex-wife, are you going to leave town and leave her to deal with it on her own, Steven?
Well, of course. Isn't that what sane people do?
Good man.
It's also like there's video evidence, and I thought about playing the clip, but I can't listen to it. Every time I listen to it, it makes me cry. There's video evidence of Pam Hobbs finding out that her son is dead.
Ugh.
And she falls to the ground, she collapses, and she starts shaking, and she starts screaming, and screaming, and screaming, and screaming, and screaming. And they pan over to Terry Hobbs, and Terry Hobbs is not holding his wife up, not trying to help. He's sitting on the fucking curb smoking a cigarette. Are you fucking kidding me?
Current wife or ex-wife?
That was his current wife at the time.
Current wife, yeah.
When the kid...
That was Stevie's mother that he was married to at the time. They're divorced now, but he literally fucking sat on a curb and watched his wife break down, have a complete mental break at the news that her son was found dead.
Should be evidence number one before we start looking at the weird kid in town that could be a Satanist.
Literally. I mean, why don't you tell me, Craig? Why don't you tell me, Craig? If God forbid something happened to your child, would you leave
sweet baby angel?
Your sweet baby angel, your beautiful sweet baby angel. If God forbid something happened to her, would you leave Sarah to deal with it by herself 2 weeks after this happened?
I give her maybe 3 weeks.
I give her 3 weeks.
No,
Thanks,
of course not. Of course not.
So literally, 2 weeks. That's why Terry was never interviewed. Because when the police came around to ask questions 2 weeks after the death, after giving the family time to mourn, he wasn't there. He was in somewhere 120 miles from Arkansas.
He's not here. He's probably innocent. Let's go.
Question, do you know if there was another woman he was getting with?
It's
maybe
thought-
this was
It's thought that he was cheating on Pam, but it's not proven. So I don't throw that in there because it's not proven that he was doing such a thing.
Is it from that?
It's just hearsay.
It tells
It's
me
just
I want a fresh start.
no.
Get this kid out
This
of the
is
way.
not a Chris Watts. This is not a Chris Watts.
Okay, it's not a Chris Watts.
What they think,
Yeah, you knew exactly what I was thinking, Chris Watts.
that's not what this is. Terry also killed Pam's brother.
No,
Pardon?
like
So
this is a thing that legit happened. This is a
thing that legit happened. So at some point, Pam and Terry were having this crazy ass fight. This is information I got from Stephanie. I don't know where she got it, but I know that I got it from Stephanie and I trust her information. If you guys don't trust me, feel free to look it up. I couldn't find anything that corroborated it, but I know that she's read a lot of books on the subject, so she might have more information that I don't have. At some point, they're into a fight, right? Pam and Terry get into this fight, and Terry slaps the shit out of Pam. And Pam's pissed, right? Because this is the first time that he's ever hit her. And so she calls her family, and she's like, Terry hit me. So her brother, like a normal brother would do, comes over to her house to beat the shit out of the guy that smacked the fuck out of his little sister. Like, I'm sure that you would do the same thing. You have a little sister.
Yes.
So you would, like, if she called you and said, hey, my boyfriend just smacked the shit out of me, what are you doing?
I'm going to call my friend who is much stronger than me to come beat us.
Yes. So his brother Pam's brother comes over to beat the shit out of Terry, I assume, right? Because that's the only logical explanation to, well, Davey, he should have brought a gun because this guy brought his fist to a gunfight. Terry shot him. Terry shot Pam's brother in the stomach. And when then Pam's
I'm
brother
assuming he got off on.
He survived.
Oh, he survived.
Pam's brother survived, but he died later on due to a complication with the follow-up surgery, like that had to do with the gunshot wound. So technically, it couldn't be considered that Terry killed him because he had died from a complication with the surgery. But he killed him.
Okay. Yeah, he was just never found.
Was this before or after?
Responsible.
After?
After.
Wow.
This is one of the things that convinced Pam that the West Memphis Three was innocent. Because I'm going to play 2 clips later. Actually, I'll play them right now. One is where Pam is saying that she would like there to be another case because she doesn't think the West Memphis Three did it. And the other one is of John Mark talking. So let me pull those up really quick. Get to your singing, boy.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I really, really, really want a zig-a-zig ah.
Zig-a-zig ah.
He's like
You
the
want my
pig.
future?
He's
Forget my past.
He's like the pig off of Chicken Little.
If you want to get with me.
You could have just put a period after he's like a pig.
Trust me, you got time, ladies.
All right, let me
got
see
plenty of
if
time.
Okay, so the first one is at 3:24.
Yay, numbers.
Questions his possible involvement.
I really think West Memphis was rushed for conviction. They took 3 teenagers and convicted them. I would like for them to look at evidence that has been presented to the court the past couple of years versus the circumstantial evidence that convicted the 3 men that are in prison.
Mark Byers agrees. His son Christopher is one of the victims.
My faith in my heart and in my soul to every fiber that I have, that there's going to come justice one day, and those 3 are going to walk out of the Arkansas Department of Corrections.
West Memphis.
So that is Pam Hobbs, Stevie's mother, and John Mark, Chris Byers' father, both saying that they basically support the West Memphis Three. They don't think they did it, right?
I think that should mean something.
Oh, yeah. Pam's family also believes that Terry was involved in killing the boys. And it is also said that he sexually abused his daughter, Amanda, Stevie's little sister. And she's fucked up to this day. Like, she's in counseling. Like, she's got issues, man, you know. She's trying to separate real memories with her brother from ones that her brain created because she was only 4 when he died, right? 4 or 5. So she's trying to work through it, and then she also claims that her father sexually assaulted her for a long time. He is also the last one seen with the boys. And the last thing is, sometime after Stevie's death, a knife was found. I think it was found in Terry Hobbs, like a safe or something, or like a tackle box that he had. I really don't know the circumstances. It was found in something that he had by Pam. And Pam, like, asked him about it. She was like, "That's Stevie's knife. What the fuck?" And the police asked him about it, and he was like, "Oh, I just didn't think that my son should have a knife. I didn't think that my son should play with knives. I didn't think that it was appropriate for an 8-year-old," right? But Pam says that she swears she saw him with the knife the day that he went missing and is thought to have died. I think we mentioned this in the first episode. But she swears that she saw her son with that knife. And then she was super confused when he wasn't found with it. But she figured maybe the murderer stole it, or maybe it had gotten lost in the river, or maybe it had gotten lost in the woods somewhere. But then it turns up in Terry's safe. Like, she definitely thinks her ex-husband had something to do with it. Terry has also never been considered a suspect. Not once, ever. To this day.
It's crazy. He should have been suspect number one, right from the, right off the bat.
Literally,
the moment.
He also, let's talk about this real quick. He broke into his neighbor's apartment years before he was ever married, like when he was a young man. He broke into his neighbor's apartment and groped her while she was taking a bath.
Jeez.
He just broke in and she was taking a bath.
Real swell guy.
And he just started groping her, and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And she starts screaming, and he runs out of the apartment. And there's proof of this one. There's a police report that you can find about Terry Hobbs breaking into his neighbor's apartment and groping her. Disgusting.
But let's go after the guys who like rock.
Metallica, literally.
Have you guys seen the color of these kids' shirts? It's black.
Ah, no.
They're black.
Oh my
God.
I like Oreos.
That is not a funny joke. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. Let's also talk about one more thing. Terry Hobbs never cleaned. This is coming from Pam's sister, right? Terry Hobbs never cleaned. He was one of those old-timey guys that believed there was men's work and women's work, and he didn't do women's work. And he didn't clean, right? How come then on May 6th, the day that Stevie was found dead, he was cleaning and doing laundry and cleaning Stevie's bedroom with bleach and taking clothes out of the dresser drawers that were already cleaned to put them through the laundry?
Well, Kazea, I've got a theory on that. He murdered children.
Yes, he murdered children.
No,
okay.
No. It's definitely.
I was just making sure we were on the same page.
No.
Pam also believes that Terry was very jealous of the attention that she gave to her son, which is warped, completely fucked.
Yeah. It's like
there's
you
also
treat this child like he's a child.
Oh God. There's also somebody claims, it's hearsay. I got this from Stephanie's video. I don't know what and where she got it from. It could be hearsay. It could not be real. I don't know. But there is a rumor that Terry told his mother that Pam doesn't give me as much attention as she gives Stevie. Like, it was a complaint that he made to his mother. Like, are you serious? Like, what kind of man says, you have a child and you're not giving him as much attention as he gives me? I'm jealous. Like, what?
I could tell you historically, the men I could give you as examples would be men that have killed
children.
Children, yes.
So as you can see, Terry didn't like Stevie, right? Didn't like Stevie. It's also known, like it's common knowledge, that every alibi that Terry has ever given the police has been proven, like disproven by the people that he uses to corroborate. Like David Jacoby, he claimed that Regina Meeks was his alibi. He claimed that there was another guy that was his alibi, and all three of these people were like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. I didn't see him that night. I didn't talk to him that night. Or I went out in the woods and looked, but he was not fucking with me. Like, he went home. Like, every single person that he's used as an alibi has been like, no.
But they arrest the guys that are wearing black shirts.
Yes. Yes, they did. At this time is when the boys decide to take an Alfred plea. It's brought up by Damien's defense team. They're like, listen, we could do another trial and, you know, you guys might come out on top. You might not. You know, if you guys want to avoid that and you want to avoid a lawsuit, we should just do an Alfred plea, right? Because we talked about what an Alfred plea is. An Alfred plea is when you plead guilty but maintain your innocence. So
yeah,
they get to walk free.
The butler of Batman is what
Alfred.
it is named after.
So they got to walk free. Which, let's talk about that for a second. If you guys really think these fuckers were guilty, why are you letting child murderers out of prison? Why? Pourquoi? Yeah. I don't understand. So they take the Alfred plea, right? And the boys get to walk free. And if you do research, Damien is now living his life in New York, doing his Wiccan thing. He's got a YouTube channel. If you guys want to hit him up, it's Damien Eccles on YouTube.
Dating chicks that don't shave their armpits.
Dating chicks that don't shave their armpits. Jason is also married, and he is studying to be a lawyer in Portland. He is also looking into potentially clearing his name and getting exonerated, maybe just on his own, maybe without involving the other two. Because the stipulation to them accepting the Alfred plea was that all three of them had to accept it. And Jason really didn't want to. He was like, I don't want to fucking lie anymore. Like, I didn't do this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, his best friend's life is on the line. His best friend's on death row. He's like, I don't want to fuck around with Jesse and Damien's life. I'll handle my shit on my own later on. I want them to get out, so I'll take the Alfred plea, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So he's out. He's gotten
Plus,
married.
he probably looks at it as this is the easiest approach to get out.
Jason doesn't care.
It's another thing.
Jason is one of those, like, when you listen to him speak, he doesn't give
He just wants the truth.
Shit about the easy way out. He doesn't want to be considered a guilty man. He wants to be able to get a job. He wants to be able to own a firearm. He wants to be able to do
he's going to law school. I mean, that tells you right away.
Exactly. He doesn't care about how fast it is. He just wants the truth. He wants to be exonerated. He doesn't want to be a guilty man anymore because he knows he didn't do anything. So he's married and studying law. He's in Portland, I believe. And Jesse Miss Kelly, you know, the guy that started all of this, and nobody blames Jesse, and I don't think anybody should, because it's not Jesse's fault that he was coerced. It's not Jesse's fault that the police manipulated him, you know. And lots of people are like, oh, well, he was just giving a witness statement and he incriminated himself. No, he didn't. He had the IQ of a 6-year-old and was telling the police whatever they wanted to hear so he could go home. He had a girlfriend. He was like, I wanted to go home. And, you know, he said that he wanted to go home and screw his girlfriend, which, you know, he's 17. You know, does he have the mind of a 6-year-old? Yeah, but he's 17. He's
still got the dick of a 17-year-old.
Exactly. So he's like, I wanted to go home and screw my girlfriend, so I told him whatever they wanted to hear.
Fair enough.
But Jesse stays out of the limelight. He really doesn't like talking to the press. He doesn't like giving interviews. He doesn't like talking to anybody. You can catch him, like they have panel talks sometimes, 3 of them, where they all go and sit and answer questions. And Jesse will be seen in those. But other than that, he doesn't really like to be in the limelight at all. He does still live in West Memphis, though. He lives with his father, if I'm not wrong, because I think he needs the extra help, to be completely honest. So he lives with his father, and he stayed in West Memphis. I think we've made our theories pretty clear. Do you think we need a theories section?
I mean, Terry, dude, they did it.
I think it was the snapping turtle.
Terry and that turtle teamed up together.
Terry and the turtle.
It was the Satanist turtle that did it.
Honest to God, I really think that Terry did it. I think that Terry killed
Yeah.
Stevie in a fit of rage. I think that Terry got pissed off because he wasn't home when he was supposed to be home.
And I'm assuming with the other two boys just
just
simply
saw it.
because they were there.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
he beat the shit out of his son, and I think he beat the shit out of his son or his stepson so bad that Stevie died or was unresponsive. And so he thought that Stevie had died. And so he either stripped all their clothes off or found them when they were naked swimming in the river. So let's assume that they weren't naked. He strips all their clothes off, takes the laces
Either
out
way,
of their
it
shoes
could
and
fit
ties
with
them
it.
up. And ties them up and throws them in the water to make it look like some kind of gruesome murder when it really wasn't.
Yeah.
I think
Probably
that all
wanted
of
to
the
make
tying
it look
up
like
and
it could have been sexual.
Exactly.
Even though, try to make it look like a pervert or a Satanist did it.
Literally. Because, the only kid that died before he was put into the water was Chris. And Chris was the smallest of the boys. So it's not crazy to believe that, the same level of beating that he put Stevie and Michael through killed Chris because Chris was the smallest out of all of them.
Yeah.
He was a little boy. And so, he beats the shit out of these three boys. Chris dies. The other two are unconscious. He throws them in the water thinking that they're dead. They drown. And then they're found dead the next day. Because there's
definitely the most reasonable theory to me.
There's also a rumor, just so everybody knows, I can't remember where I heard it, but there's a rumor that Terry Hobbs supposedly found the bodies before the police did, but he didn't say anything because he didn't want to be considered a suspect. So he found the bodies of his dead stepson and two other boys and I don't want to be considered a suspect, so I'm just not going to say anything,
How in the fuck did the police not?
He definitely knew where they were.
Literally.
He was the first.
I think she's more speaking on the books that he found them first, Because on the books, the guy didn't do a single thing.
If you guys would like to get more information, you guys can watch the Stephanie Harlow videos that I kind of use to supplement my own research. You guys can watch all three of the Paradise Lost documentaries. They are on Amazon Video. I think they're $2.99 a piece to rent for 2 days, and that's definitely enough time to get through them. In fact,
also on
Steven
HBO, aren't they?
Yeah, they're also on HBO.
Yeah.
And I think that Steven and I are actually going to watch them because he hasn't seen them because he didn't want to watch anything getting into the case.
I go in blind for these.
So look into Stephanie Harlow's video about the West Memphis Three. She also has some other cool videos if you guys are looking into some stuff that maybe we haven't covered and maybe some cases that we won't cover. She does a lot of serial killer series and stuff like that. And she does really good information. She gives really good information. So if you guys want to look into her, please do.
Sure.
Her name is Stephanie Harlow on YouTube. You guys can find the Paradise Lost documentaries. And then you guys can also find copies of Jessie Miss Kelly's confession online. I don't have any links for them, unfortunately, because they're so scattered.
Probably just
go in with
it.
an open mind, though, because a lot of the videos of Jessie Miss Kelly's confession that are out there are highly biased that he's guilty. So go in with an open mind. Remember everything that we've talked about. There's also Damien's books. I believe he has 2 of them. The one of them that I actually know the name of is called Life After Death. There's also West of Memphis, which is another movie based off of the case. And there's a movie with Reese Witherspoon called Devil's Knot. If you guys don't like the documentary and you guys would like a more theatric version of child murder and an unfair case, watch the one with Reese Witherspoon,
I've never heard of that.
I really want to watch it.
Is it an older movie? Or?
It looks like it focuses on Pam Hobbs a lot and Steve.
Wow.
And it would actually, I've always wanted to watch it. I just can't find it.
Be interesting to see from that perspective.
So there you go, guys. I've given you all the information and all the resources that I used. I guess the only resources that I can't give you are the clips that I used because they were from Paradise Lost and they were from interviews from from TV stations. So if you guys want those, you guys will have to go find those. I'm sorry. Do you have anything you want to plug, Stephen or Craig? We'll allow Craig to plug too.
Let's do Craig first.
Craig, do you plug?
You can follow my podcast at PW Apologists on the Twitter. And you can follow me at Craiger Atkins on the Twitter.
On the Twitter.
All right. And you can follow me at Dragon Blazer Productions on Facebook, Instagram, and my YouTube page. You can also follow me on Twitter at Dragon Blazer Pro.
And if you guys would like to keep up with Unsolved Comedy, you can follow us on Instagram at unsolved_comedies. You can also find us in a few of the Unsolved Mysteries groups on Facebook if you guys are looking to connect with like-minded people. And you can find us on the Dragon Blazer Pro Instagram page. He updates it with all of his podcasts, but
yeah, some better than
also
others.
Ours. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you guys have any
This was
suggestions,
a lot of fun. I mean, horrible topic, but a lot of fun.
If you guys have any suggestions about unsolved cases, please let us know at unsolvedcomedy@gmail.com or at the unsolved_comedies Instagram page. We are totally looking for more unsolved cases to cover.
Yeah.
All right. And don't be a Satanist turtle.
Don't be a Satanist turtle on our next episode of Unsolved Comedies, please.
Let's not bash all Satanist turtles. They're not all fighting murderers.
Well, if they're Satanist turtles, they're murderers.
All of them.
If they paint their turtle toenails black.
They paint their turtle toenails black and paint their turtle shells black and wear black turtle shell cozies. I don't know.
Cozies. Okay.
All right. I think we beat this now. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey everyone, I'm Steven from many different podcasts like Drunk Like Me, Pro Wrestling Apologists, The Rage and Blaze Show, and of course, That Got Dark. So, please like and subscribe